Democrats fundamentally believe that immigrants, whether they're here legally or not, certainly we don't want criminals in our country, but there ought to be a path to citizenship because all of us are immigrants at our core. And so as a result, there's got to be a pathway forward. If you don't give them a pathway forward, then, the idea that everyone coming across the southern border, and we'll never agree on this, are all criminals and drug dealers and murderers and rapists. That's just not fair. It's hyperbole. There may be some. Hold on. There may be some. I don't deny that. You got anecdotal stories.
Yeah.
Well, you do comprehensive immigration reform. You add money and technology and officers and judges, whether they come across legally or illegally, in order to process them. One of the reports that we haven't talked about is that the head of the of ICE, or the chief implementer of ICE, he was terminated last week because he wasn't making enough progress. He doesn't have the resources to make enough progress. And whatever those numbers are that we've put up, okay, but the numbers were down at the coming across the southern border under Biden.
Well, they are down under Trump too. You're right. Actually.
You're right. Okay, I'll give you that.
Well,
but they were down under Biden
year.
because of
it was an election year.
And the executive order that the Republicans pushed Biden to do, and you're right, it made a difference. Well, it also allows U.S. government officials or law enforcement to go after their bank accounts, seize their assets. They're on an international watch list. Interpol will track them and monitor them. And they don't have the same level of due process rights in the U.S. that they would normally have if they weren't designated as a terrorist organization, including extraditing them or whether you put it in their country or send them to Guantanamo Bay. So it gives law enforcement a broad piece. I'm a former state and federal prosecutor in New York several years ago, and so I'm somewhat familiar with this designation. But it's a good designation, and it makes all the sense in the world. And with Mexico's cooperation, as well as with this designation, that's going to put a dent in it. It's going to take some time, but put a dent in it. Well, I wouldn't go that far. Not surprisingly, President Zelensky has a war outfit on, a soldier's outfit on, because this country's at war. And the mere fact that he didn't have a tie in and of itself wasn't disrespectful. Secondly, I think both sides, this thing went off the rails because of both sides. President Zelensky has thanked the American people and American leadership over the last several years since Russia invaded this sovereign country, a democratically elected president and his sovereign country. In fact, he thanked them in that Oval Office meeting in those 45 minutes. So the idea of being ungrateful, we still have committed billions of dollars to them already that the president is holding up right now. And this is not about isolationism. It is, listen, our future and our national policy or international policy and foreign policy is tied directly to Ukraine and its survival and the resolution of this war. Their interest in this war is our interest. Vis-a-vis, this is a democratically elected president of an ally of ours. And the idea of him coming and being disrespectful or saying thank you, which is a falsehood, really makes no sense. It shouldn't have gone off the rail. Perhaps the press conference shouldn't have gone that long, actually. And I think both sides began to litigate the issues that unfolded in public that normally would be reserved for the private piece. So I put blame all around, if you will. But you got to remember, you don't have to, if you're in the United States of America, you don't have to beat your chest with a smaller democratic country. You really don't. And say that Russia or that Ukraine invaded Russia or Ukraine is to blame for Russia invading a sovereign state. I mean, are you going to believe Donald Trump or your lying eyes based on the video and stuff? So you disagree that Russia is run by a thug and killer and autocratic leader? Do you believe that Russia is right in invading a sovereign country, a democratic ally of ours? I wouldn't sit down with Putin initially either until Putin comes to the table and gives up or returns the lands that he has taken and the 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 lives that have died in this war. Yes, I think peace is important, but how you get to peace through strength is not by siding with Vladimir Putin and saying that he's the victim in his invasion of Ukraine. I think there are really bright lines there. And while I'm glad we're at the peace table, if you will, I don't support Donald Trump siding with Putin or saying that Ukraine invaded Russia. It just didn't happen that way. And we have to support our allies and friends. And Russia is our enemy. And they don't ever stop being that, whether we got to deal with them at the peace table or not. Trust but verify on who's in, the Republicans or the Democrats, or just generally. I always like to trust but verify in my life.
But it doesn't seem like the Democrats want to give Trump that room with Putin.
Well, he's got that room with Putin as the president of the United States. But I wouldn't, blaming the war on Ukraine in the face of Putin's naked aggression on a sovereign country, that cannot be ignored. They have to be at the table, but I can't meet with them alone, and I can't show and call Zelensky a dictator and that somehow blame this invasion on Zelensky. That doesn't get us anywhere. I mediate and arbitrate legal cases all the time. If I'm a mediator, I bring them both in and we start those discussions. And so I certainly believe America has given up already a great deal to Russia in the sense that Ukraine will never be in NATO. They've given that up. The vice president has said that the land has been taken illegally and unlawfully by Russia, may have to stay with Russia. You're conceding points already before you get to the table.